Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast, season 3 reunion special. With us this evening is a phenomenal woman who had the opportunity to be one of our special guests this season. Not only was her episode one of the most popular episodes that we had this season, but it actually manages to be one of our most popular episodes of all time in all 3 seasons of the podcast. So I'm super excited to have her back with us. She's a mom, she's a grandmother, she's an entrepreneur. But again, most importantly, she's a woman of God, someone who I've known for over 40 years. We go all the way back to elementary school back in Chicago. And I'm so thankful and pleased to have her back aboard again to share a little bit about what her experience was like being on the podcast with us. So without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reintroduce to you once again our star guest from the episode Temperature Control, Miss Tarita James. Tarita, thank you so much for being on the show.
Good evening, Joseph. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for the compliments.
Yes, yes, yes. So for those of you, like I said, her episode was called Temperature Control. It's part of our season 3 lineup. If you have not had a chance to tune into it, you definitely want to make sure you jump on top of that at your earliest convenience. You will not be disappointed. It is definitely an episode that is going to bless you. So with that said, Theresa, before we jump into our conversation for this evening, for those who don't know you, if you would just kind of give them a little brief introduction of who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give them a taste, if you will, of who is Tarita James.
Well, I am Tarita. A lot of people call me Rita. I am, as Joseph already said, I am an entrepreneur. I am a life coach. Um, I actually just realized what my purpose was. I would say like the end year, and my purpose is to give back. Most of the time, your purpose is something that you're passionate about, and I'm passionate about people. Um, so that's pretty much who I am. I'm from Robert Taylor Projects. I come from the Rosenwald. I come from the low end of Chicago. Um, and that's pretty much who I am.
All right, all right. Well, I'm gonna to my listeners. I'm gonna just let you know she's being a little bit modest right now. She's a whole bunch of that and then some. But we're not gonna give away any spoilers right now on the episode. You're just gonna have to check it out and tune in. But again, just a great woman of God, a woman of resilience. Again, and just a very very powerful story. I can't thank her enough for her transparency and sharing the way that she did on that episode, which is why again, it ended up not only being one of our most popular episodes this season, but actually one of our most popular episodes of all time, just because of your realness and relatability and your genuineness. I think were all key in making that be a reality. So again, I thank you for that.
Thank
So
you.
with that said, when I have people come on the show, I mean, and all my guests I consider to be phenomenal guests that come on from all walks of life with some very powerful experiences, very powerful stories to share. But one of the things that's kind of interesting with many of the guests that come on is a lot of them have never, actually been in a setting where they've been on a podcast and perhaps even shared at the level that they have. So, whenever I have an opportunity to do these reunion episodes or just in general getting feedback from people, one of the things that I like to know, and I'm going to ask you at this time, is what was your initial reaction when I reached out to you, sent you the invite over social media, and said, "Hey, it's been a long time. We just had recently connected on social media, haven't seen each other in years." And I said, "I would love for you to be a guest on my podcast." What was it that led you to make the decision to accept the invite? In this case, what was it about it all that let you know? You know what? This is something that I think I need to do.
It was interesting and it's funny, like timing. It most of the time we don't agree with it. I know I don't because you be like, God, what are you doing? What's going on? That to me, it was just so ironic because had already told me that I needed to start that it was time for the to hear my different testimonies. You reached out, I was like, this is very weird right here. Looking at the phone, like, is this real? Is this? And when I messaged you back, I said, what made you reach out to me? I asked you that particular question. Um, that's why I agreed to do it. I still have my own yet, but you really lit the fire, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think what I love about what your in your response that you just gave, is when you pointed out about God's timing. Just like you as a guest felt like, it was God's timing, in my reaching out to you. In part, that's what I kind of ride off of, if you will, when I'm reaching out to people to ask them to be on the show. I've never been the type of podcast host in the short time that I've been doing this over these. It's literally, matter of fact, today is our 2 year anniversary of the show for three seasons, and in this whole time that I've been doing this, I've never been one of those podcast hosts, and no disrespect to podcast hosts out there, but I've never been one who just randomly put a post out there and said, "Hey, if you want to be a guest on the show, just reach out to me and let me know." I'm very particular. I'm very locked in as to who I bring in on the show, because I want people who I believe is going to bring value, going to bring substance, and the reality is that some of the people that I bring on are people that I know, but there are many people that I'm meeting for the very first time. So I'm having to allow God to give me discernment to know if this is in fact the person that I need to be reaching out to, even if myself and that person have never crossed paths, have never met before, and that's usually my lead. And 9 times out of 10, in those scenarios, God gives me that confirmation to let me know that, yep, you picked the right one. Or in some instances, He said, you might want to pass on that. I don't think this is a good fit for you. So again, I'm glad that He allowed us the opportunity to reconnect after all of these years. Because again, to my listeners, we have not had an opportunity to see each other since we were kids. So the only thing that has allowed me to keep up with you and know that you were good and life is happening for you and all of that was, again, just through social media lines. And of course, we still have mutual friends, some of which we went to school with, along the way. So that's how I've been able to kind of keep tabs on you along the way, so to speak. And it just, God just put it on my heart to say, you need to reach out to her. Had no idea what your story was going to be, had no idea what impact it was going to have, but I'm just thankful to God that he made that connection for us. So again, it goes back to God's timing, being so spot on, so perfect in moments like this, and allowing you a platform opportunity to be a blessing to so many people, as you were able to do so, in being on my show for that short period of time. So that's always a phenomenal and wonderful experience for us to encounter. So with that said, now you're on the show. It's now time. We're now at that point in time where, with everybody that I have on the show, there's a particular question that I always ask my guests, where I say, tell us about a time when you found yourself in this challenging situation that you didn't know how you were going to get through, how you were going to overcome. And that's usually a very monumental moment in a discussion, because again, more times than not, I don't know what the person is about to say. I don't know what they're thinking, what they're feeling in that moment in time. So what I'm curious to know from you is, as you were in that moment when it was time to tell the core part of your story, I'm curious to know what thoughts or emotions were going on with you right before you started. How did it feel as you were telling the story, and what was the feeling like after you finally said the last words to your story? What was that feeling like, or thoughts in your head with that? To kind of walk us through what that whole experience was like for you.
So probably like 10 minutes it was time to get on. Um, Honestly, I started wondering like, oh my God, what are people gonna say, thinking? And then I had to like get that out of my head, because this is my life. This is my story. And everybody's always gonna have something to say. But it's not about that. It's about, even if I just help one person. That's what it was all about. A lot of different emotions came up, but it also brought me back to when I went to college, um, do a public speaking class. And this was in 2014. But all of the practices that I had to do with this particular professor, like, she was very, very, very hard on me, but started to make sense that day on your podcast. Um, so once I started speaking with those, I kind of zoned out. I was in my own world. It was just like it was just me and God. Very comfortable with you, and that makes a world of a difference. especially for people telling their stories. You have to be comfortable with who you're speaking with. Just like if you're a therapist, you can't just pick any therapist. That has to feel that you could open up to. I felt very comfortable as out to you, and a lot of emotions came. A lot.
Love that. Love that. And as you stated, I mean, again, not to give out any spoilers, but it was evident at different points of time in you telling your story that, like you said, the emotions of just kind of walking through that whole experience again. And but I also saw in you a sense of freedom, a sense of peace, a sense of release. And you know, and I love seeing moments like that because, as you said, it's never easy telling a story about a dark or challenging time in your life, but you kind of know when you have arrived at a point of healing when you're able to tell that story and you're no longer ashamed, you're no longer embarrassed, you're no longer concerned with who likes it or who doesn't like it or anything like that. You, like you said, you just kind of get into a zone, so to speak, where it's just you allowing God, allowing the Holy Spirit to just speak to you and share whatever it is that he deems fit for you to share. And so I'm thankful that you felt comfortable in on this platform in this setting that I was able to, you know, of course with God's guidance, that I was able to create an environment where you felt free, you know, to be able to speak as you spoke, you know, and telling your story without feeling judged, without feeling ridiculed, or, you know, or anything like that, because that's obviously the last thing that I want to have happen for you or any guest, for that matter. So I don't take lightly, I don't take for granted that people are being very vulnerable in these moments, and a lot of things could be stirring up inside that I can't see and I can't feel, but I definitely felt the passion and the freedom in you telling the story. And like you said, you get into these moments, and when you're letting God lead you, the words just come out. It's like you don't even have a control as to what's going to be said and how it's going to be said, but it's the Holy Spirit directing your thoughts, directing your voice, so that you are reaching the people that needed to hear your story. And so even to you saying that, if even if it was only one person, which I know for a fact it was more than one person, but even if it was just one person, the mission was accomplished. You shared your story that blessed somebody, that poured into somebody in a way that they needed in that particular moment in time. So that's a wonderful thing, and I'm glad again that that was what that experience was like for you. But one of the things that you mentioned, that I do, that kind of leads us into our next question is, you know, whenever somebody is getting ready to take the opportunity to be on a podcast, you know, platform like my own, and they're getting ready to tell their story, I've had people who don't share with somebody up front that they're going to do this. Then I had people who've told some people up front, and you know, to let them know, hey, I'm going to be on the show. So I'm kind of curious what your experience was like with other people, whether they were friends or family. Like, if you told anybody beforehand that you were going to do this, I'm curious to know what was some of the feedback that you got about you even, you know, sharing with them that you were ready to share such intimate and personal moments in your life. And then, of course, I'm curious to know, obviously, that once the episode aired and you began to see the feedback or hear the feedback, what was that experience like from you, from the people who had that actually tuned in, watched it, and they gave you their thoughts and opinions about what you said and how you said it? What kind of walk us through what that was like for you?
So yes, I reach out to a couple of friends, my sons, and I let them know that I was on this podcast and that I was going to be talking about some very personal things. And it's not to hurt anybody. It's not to paint a picture of anybody. This is my story. This is my life. Um, the podcast was aired. The feedback that I got from the people, um, it was a few negative comments, but God had already prepared me for that. Um, so in my growth healing journey, I have learned how not to focus on people, but to focus on God. It's all about pleasing God. And that's why we go through things. It's to help other people. Yes, obviously, but it's to help other people. And if you don't share, how can you help somebody? If you're just sitting on it, how can you help somebody? I noticed once I did tell my story, Well, one of my stories, a piece of me always heals. Always heals once I share. The positive feedback too. And it was interesting for the people that have been knowing me for a very, very time, and they was like, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know that happened to you. Stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that's only one component of my life. That feedback. Anytime you share, you have to prepare mentally and spiritually to be ready, the good and the bad. But I was okay with it. And for the next.
Well, that is awesome. And again, when people give you feedback after telling such a personal, intimate story, like you said, whether it's negative feedback, but definitely the positive feedback, like, "Ooh, I was really inspired by your story. I really was moved by what you said." And again, to be able to see your strength and your resilience, to see that when they see where you are today, and they realize what your journey was like, and they're just amazed at the fact that how did you survive that? How did you make it to this point? It gives us an opportunity through in this case through my podcast, which is one of the reasons why I love doing it, is like it's almost like an alternative creative way for me to testify about who God is and how he can move in your life when you rely upon him, that there's nothing that's too insurmountable, nothing that's too far off track that you can be involved in or fall short in, that he can't step in and just make miracles and ways out of no way. And your story was a perfect example of that, because if we had read your story on paper, people would have already, I think most people would have already assumed that, one, you probably aren't even here anymore. And if you are here, you're not doing nothing anytime soon, because there's no way you could have come back. There's no way you could have bounced back from something like that. So the mere fact that you were here at that time to do the episode, and that you're even here a second time to follow up on it, speaks volumes of who God is, his unconditional love for us, his power, his grace, his mercy. All of that was resonated in the telling of your story. So it has to feel good when people, when you share, again, when you share an intimate part of you, again, whether you're doing it on a podcast or when I wrote my book, and shared different stories, when people tell you, wow, I was really moved, I was touched by what you spoke to. That feels good, to know that you impacted somebody's life in a meaningful way, even if it was just a little bit. That you did something, that you said something that mattered to them, that they can take away and maybe apply to their own lives. Because you never know what people are struggling with, what people are dealing with. As I'm sure you're aware, we all wear our mask. We can have a smile on our face and look like everything is happy-go-lucky, but could be crying and hurting on the inside, and people may never know. Um, so that's why you have to be so mindful of how you treat people, and if God is prodding you to speak to somebody, or in this case to share your story, don't take that lightly. Don't ignore the assignment. Take advantage of that, because you have no idea how God is going to use you, and/or how he's going to use your story to be of inspiration, of encouragement, and uplifting to someone else. So again, I'm glad that your feedback was broad in this case. Well, I know for a fact it was broad, because on your episode there were several comments, on your episode, and none of them were negative. And that's the ones that people actually recorded comments. We're not talking about the people who just spoke to you personally, that never did put something on the site or anything like that. So again, massive comment feedback, massive viewership. So yeah, your story hit home in a lot of ways to a lot of people from all walks of life. So that's a beautiful thing. So so Tarita, if you had an opportunity to give some words of encouragement to someone, in the sense of, and what I mean by this is like, for someone who might, like yourself, get approached by somebody like me, asking them to tell their story, what would be your words of encouragement to that individual who, if they get approached like you were approached with an opportunity to share your story, to be vulnerable and transparent, what would you say to them as to why you believe they should accept that assignment and move forward with telling that story? What would your selling point be to them as to, this is why you need to do this, if you ever get approached like I was in a situation like this?
We're living in a different time now. And what I mean is, everything is social media. Everything is the internet. Totally different world. So you have so many different platforms. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of negativity out there too. That once you're watching it, if you're scrolling late at night or whatever it may be, that stuff gets in your spirit. So what my piece of advice would be, I know a lot of people feel embarrassed, number one, to share, to be vulnerable is a gift. I I had to learn that all people gonna think you a punk if you vulnerable. Like I always are because nobody better not try test my game. And especially from where I came from, the way that I had to grow up, the way that I had to protect myself when I was in prison, the way that I'm single, I live. I always got to be on guard, but at the same time, I always got to be ready to share when God tells me to share. So you have to be approachable, vulnerable, approachable, and open. Those are advice. And for me, my attention span is pretty short. I get bored fast. If you're going in a circle telling your story, I'm gonna scroll right past you. You gotta grasp my attention. What I mean by that, I've seen so many different interviews and podcasts, and it's saying, "Oh well, I've been through." Let's just say they've been molested as a child. Yeah, I was molested as a child, and then traumatized me, and that's it. We want to know today. We want to know details, and that's what helps. It's hard to tell those details, but like I could tell you, when to two life sentences, like world, like in my little mind, then my 20s, I was in my 20s when it happened. Like, what just happened here? How? How does this happen? How do I comprehend this in the heat of the moment? So as I was talking and sharing that, it opened up a lot of doors for me in my mind. Like as you said earlier, it showed me the strength of God is what kept even from a little girl. The strength of God is what can now, even as an adult, as I go through a different one right now, currently. So share, share, share. You never know who you're going to help, whose life you're going to save, most of all, when you share. So you're sitting over there contemplating suicide because some feel that nobody will understand. Some people feel that, oh my God, I'm going through this. No, ma'am, no, sir. You're not the has went through that. There's numerous people that have went through things. This is why God allows tests and trials. There's a scripture that says we come by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of our testimony. Literally means sharing. When you give your testimony, piece of you and you're helping somebody else. And if you did that, what a better place this world would be. Social media, it is displayed so much just the phoniness. There's so many phony people out here. They want to paint these pictures like they wake up face fully made up, hair. People got six packs, little waists, and the outskirts of things. No, I'm gonna show when I wake up with a bonnet on, looking, like now. Today was a day. I don't have any makeup on. This is who I am, raw, uncut, and that's what makes me different. My vulnerability, details. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm embarrassed anymore. You can't judge me. So that would be my advice to anybody that has the time is now. I know God been shoulder. I know he has. Answer the call.
Love that. Love that. Like you said, sharing, being vulnerable doesn't make you weak, doesn't make you a punk, doesn't make you soft. Yes, you do have to be mindful of the setting and the platform that you do it in, because as you shared earlier, especially again when you're talking about some deep hurts, some deep traumas from your past, the environment matters. The safety of the space matters. All podcast platforms, all platforms in general of telling one story, even in a church. All platforms in general are not safe platforms. So you want to be discerning in that regard. But if you found a platform, if God has, if you've taken this to God and said, "Hey, an opportunity has been presented to me to be on this platform," and He's giving you that confirmation that this is in fact a safe space for you to do this in, then you have to not only accept that assignment, but as you stated, you can't sugarcoat it. You can't dance around it. You got to be all in. You got to lay it all out there, and don't look at it as you putting all your business out in the street. This is not what it's about. It's about you letting God use you in whatever way He chooses to use you, and you say, "Lord, let me be the vessel in telling this story," and you let the words pour out that you feel are essential or necessary to flow out, whatever that is. Just let it flow, even if it's something I've never said before. And I've had people, again, who've come on my show that have told me on countless occasions, I've never told this before. I've never done this before. Or maybe they've shared the story before, but they've never told it at this level of detail. Um, Let it all out, because you just don't know whose life you're changing. It's about you having a mindset of understanding that a lot of what we go through, our trauma, our challenges, our situations, half the time that we're going through stuff, it's not even about us anyway. God has allowed you to go through it because He was preparing you for somebody else who was going to be going through something similar, but He had to have you go through it because you were going to be the instrument that's going to be used to minister to them. But you had to be relatable, you had to be authentic, you had to be genuine, but you had to go through it. It wasn't about you. He wasn't mad at you, He wasn't picking on you. He just said, "This is your assignment. This is going to sting a little bit. It's not going to feel good, but there's a blessing that lies ahead, not only for the person that you're going to pour into, but for you being able to rely upon me to get you through this. Everybody's going to win in this because I'm in charge. I'm running the show." And that's what being in a relationship with God is all about, and understanding how He operates, how He moves. So, as Tarita said, don't miss out on the opportunity. And again, don't be ashamed. Don't feel again that you're soft, that you're weak, or anything like that. Because if God is behind it, if He's tapped you on your shoulder and said, "Now is the time to do it," then you know that everything is going to be okay. You can trust in that because He can be trusted. He loves you unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for you. He's going to make that thing work out the way it needs to work out. And the people who need to hear it are going to hear it. And you, in turn, are just further igniting that healing process. You're further igniting that growth, that strengthening of relationship with Him. So all of those things matter. So again, I appreciate you sharing that because it's so important for people to understand why those moments are necessary. And again, it's a reminder to me, even on those times when I may be feeling tired and I don't want to do no more episodes. I don't feel like it today. That I got to stay consistent and continue to do it and continue to seek out opportunities. Again, not because I'm trying to be in everybody's business or put people on blast, but I understand that there are blessings in this. That there are so many people, and especially in these days and times, people are hurting. People are looking for some glimmer of light, some ray of hope. That whatever it is that they're going through, that it's going to be okay. You even admitted to yourself that although you shared a completely different story, you're saying, "Hey, I'm going through something right now." And guess what? Being in a relationship with God doesn't mean that you no longer go through anything. But what it does mean is that you know that you don't have to, whatever it is that you're going through, you know that you're not by yourself. That you don't have to carry that weight alone. He's going, just like He worked out what you shared on the podcast, whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, He gonna work that out too. And then when the next time something come about, He gonna work on that. He's gonna work that out too. He does not let up. He does not just disappear. He's not just a one-hit wonder. He is infinite in that regard. He doesn't run out of blessings. He doesn't run out of love. He doesn't run out of compassion and concern for you. And you are a perfect example, testimony of that, just as so many others are who've chosen to share as you've shared and who have trusted in God as you have trusted in God. So again, I appreciate that. So, so Tarita, this has been awesome. I love catching up with people. We had a phenomenal season 3, and like I said, I don't bring everybody back. I can't obviously bring every guest back on the reunion special, but I was definitely looking forward to bringing you back. checking in with you again, having an opportunity to thank you once again for sharing your story and doing it so eloquently, so in such a relatable way. But before I let you go, I do want to catch up with you and see. And it's been a few months since you've been on the show. I don't know what's been going on with you, or what have you. But do you have anything that we need to be aware of? Any good news that's going on? Anything that's happened since the last time you were on the show that we need to, again, either be made aware of or just simply lift you up in prayer about, just to keep you encouraged, to keep you uplifted? Because again, we don't take for granted you taking time out to be a part of this with us. So, what's been going on with you since we last seen you, and what can we be looking forward to, in the days and weeks and months to come from you?
I have just been continuing on my healing journey as I navigate at the end form that I'm in. Um, and I don't mind sharing a financial storm, and I've never experienced in my adult life where I wasn't able to figure something. God has not allowed me to figure anything out. So literally, I have to walk by faith every day. Some days are easier than others. It's like when you don't know where your next is coming from, that's very, very scary. And people could say, oh, you don't money. Come on, let's be real. You have to have money and able to live. However, you're not for it. Two things.
Mm-hmm.
God is my source. He's Jehovah Jireh. And I know he has not brought far to leave me. And I've
Mm.
learned so much since the last time we spoke. I've grown so much. And you asked what I would like for you to pray for me of that the op- my open doors are presented before me. That moment set before me. Just take off and run through the doors and go and tell my whatever he sends me, like that old song we used to sing when we were little. Put it on the mountain. That's what I'm ready for. That's what I know is coming. So to
Mm.
whomever is listening to this, be encouraged because now is the time. And thank you so much again. Thank you, Joseph, listeners. And please follow me because I post something on a regular basis on platforms. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I share real life things. Like every other day, I'm posting something, and it's always encouragement, because we need each other. I need you, and you need me. We all have gifts or a gift that's meant to share with the world. So thank you again.
Awesome, awesome. Love that. So, my listeners, hey, you got an opportunity to keep up with Rita, whatever she's got going on. Keep her encouraged, keep her uplifted, keep her in your prayers. I'm already expecting, like I told you last time when you were on here, I'm still looking forward to the day that you tell me that the book is coming. I'm still looking forward to the day that you tell me that the podcast is coming. I'm still looking forward to the day that you tell me about all the speaking engagements that are coming. We're speaking all of this into existence, not because we're being delusional or not because we're living in a fantasy world, but we're believing that God is going to open the doors that you talked about, that He's going to make the rooms available for you that you spoke of. That this is not just a random rambling of words, but that this is a real thing. That you're going to have more opportunities to share your story, just like you did on my platform, and I'm excited for you. I love what God is already doing in your life and what He's going to continue to do in your life. And so, um, you know, I'm expecting nothing but greatness from you, and I look forward to the people who are going to be blessed by all that you have to share, all that you have to pour into, because you are on the right track. You are trusting God. You are believing in God. You are allowing Him to lead your steps, guide your way, even when the world says that you should give up, even when the world says that you should play the victim role and woe is me and why this and why that. God does everything for a reason. Nothing is random about Him. Even down to the storms that He permits to come into your life, He's doing that as an opportunity to grow you, to develop you, to bridge the relationship gap that much more tighter. And he does, and when He's doing that with you, You got to know that something big is coming. You just have to be patient, and you just have to stay open and ready to receive whatever it is that he has for you. Don't question the process, but just follow his lead. And you know, just like I do, he will never let you down. He will never lead you astray. He did not bring you this far to leave you, because he had plenty of opportunity to do that. So if he didn't do it back then, we have no reason to believe that now all of a sudden that that's going to happen. So again, thank you so much for joining with us once again and sharing. Tune in to her episode, Temperature Control, season 3 episode. If you have not checked it out, download that. You can go on YouTube and check it out, or you can go on whatever podcast platform you prefer to listen to, whether you want to see her face or you just want to hear her voice, or do both. Share with other people. Powerful, powerful. One of the most powerful episodes we have ever had in the 3 seasons on the podcast. So don't miss out on that opportunity. And for those of you, again, to my listeners tuning in, if you've been blessed by the Blessings in the Streets podcast, whether it's been season 3, whether it's been Tarita's episode, or just our conversation today, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because this is what it's all about. This is why I do what I do. Not because I'm looking for fame or fortune, not because I'm looking for likes and statuses, but because I'm trying to do what God has called for me to do, with the intention of being a blessing to other people. So, but most importantly, I want you to, if you don't walk away with nothing else, understand that if you don't have a relationship with God, today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. It'll be the greatest decision that you'll ever make. He will never let you down. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. So I would encourage you to embrace that relationship if you have not already done so. We're not telling you something that we heard. We're telling you something that we know from firsthand experience. And we don't want to be the only ones benefiting from it. We want you to benefit from it too. There's enough love to go around from him. He does not run out. So don't miss out if you have not already tapped in, and just watch him do wonderful and miraculous and marvelous things in your life. So with that said, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you just keep the faith, continue to lean on him, continue to depend upon him to guide your steps. Watch him just love on you and show you the way to live a life that is pleasing in his sight, that will in turn be a blessing not only to you, but will equip you to be a blessing to so many others out there. So until next time, you take care of yourself and have a great rest of your evening.